Years of high unemployment. Let's have a look. Good morning everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I hope you're having a good weekend and a great Sunday. I thought we'd have a look at this article from news.com.au from Jason Murphy discussing his take on the RBA's, well, much worse economic predictions. Their expectations of our economy moving forward has kind of taken a hit. And so grab your stein of coffee, add your morning Sunday rum, and let's have a look, guys. And by the way, I'm not drinking rum on Sunday morning. You got to wait until at least 10 a.m., don't you? Then the sun's going down. Anyway, let's have a look at this. The RBA says the economy will be even worse than expected. Now, maybe this is only from the RBA's perspective. I couldn't understand their position that the economy was going to bounce back or a V-shaped recovery or will, get much better next year. I couldn't see where it was coming from. I couldn't see it. Sorry, Australia. The economic effect of the coronavirus is turning into less of a short, sharp slap in Australia's face and more of a chronic injury. And, you're right there. This is one good thing of Jason's articles. He's on news.com.au. Well, probably the best thing about them. And he's exposing people to the economic considerations. Which is valuable. People need to start thinking about these things. Most people are just too apathetic here in Australia, and I imagine everywhere else around the world. Economics is the dismal science, the boring science. No one wants to pay attention to it. I actually always found it funny how they thought they were a science. When I was doing some economics at university, compared to the hard sciences like real sciences, because I did physics and chemistry and bio at school, and then going to university and these economists are talking, and it's all just so touchy-feely, a lot of I think that I don't know if they were actually, the behavioral economics, I don't know if it was quite widely spread then when I started doing it, at least not in the subjects that I was looking at. Sorry, Australia, the economic outlook is worse than we thought, and it could get even worse. That's the message from the RBA yesterday as it issued a bunch of forecast downgrades and released a new downside scenario that shows Australia is in a truly terrifying possible future, or shows a truly terrifying possible future. So are all the worst case scenarios, are they the ones that are now starting to manifest? Are they what we're starting to see? Remember, there was talk, all the property spookers were saying, it'll be good, or spookers, same difference. They were saying it'll be good so long as we don't get a second wave. What's happening now? And look at the economic restrictions that are being put in place, everyone. Look at the economic restrictions that are being put in place. The number of people that are losing their businesses. This is unheard of. This has not happened. This is going to be even worse than the Great Depression. Let me know what you think, guys. The economic effect of the coronavirus is turning to less of a short, sharp slap in Australia's face and more of a chronic injury. Or maybe it's kind of removing the bandages that we had propping up our chronic injury, our overdependence on migration to drive up a property bubble, and decline of any sophisticated manufacturing or processing parts of our economy to where our economic complexity is very low. Could that be it? The official forecasts didn't always predict this. Back in May, the RBA put out 3 scenarios. The baseline, the upside, and the downside. These showed things getting bad in a hurry, then resolving fast too. Even the downside scenario from May showed rapid improvement. Yes, well, we all know that the RBA has a tremendous track record when it comes to predicting the future. And I can't show you my wage growth chart because it's fallen off again. I'll just quickly edit this while I'm continuing here. So, Australia, for a little while, the official forecast showed we were going better than the baseline. Hip, hip, hooray, I said to myself. But the truth is recovering from a pandemic slump is much harder than we thought. Well, yes, you've got, it's a dose of reality, isn't it? It's a dose of reality. I didn't think it would be, Well, what did you think, guys, in the comments? Those of you that have been watching for a while, did you think we'd believe all these forecasts of a bounce back? Or are you like me and become so cynical that you've got so little faith in RBA's predictive abilities? This is the wage price, and I'm going to save this setting so I don't lose it. This is the wage price index forecast from the RBA. You can see back from 2011 to 2017, they failed over and over again. You can actually see on my Teespring store, you can get a mug for it, guys. Be a bit funny. Australia has doubled the number of people on JobSeeker to 1.5 million people. That's enormous. JobKeeper is even bigger, supporting 3.5 million. And here's the thing. We haven't actually seen the impact of this economic decline. We're starting to enter a recession. But JobKeeper is a new invention. It didn't exist the last time Australia had a recession in 28 years ago. Remember that recession Australia had to have? I'm sure some of you do, well, most of you would. If only as a child, as me, with your parents, work suddenly dried up. We were in the construction game, my father was. My mother was doing mobile hair care down in Victoria. So then we moved up here to Queensland. Actually kind of good, if I think about it. I was in grade 2 when we did, grade 4. And yeah, I'm pretty happy that I'm living in Queensland right now and not Victoria. I'll raise a stein to that. Thank you, parents. The economy appears to be standing up, but only with assistance. There you go. That assistance is being gently removed. Getting back to a healthy economy that can actually support itself will be very difficult. Yesterday, Australia's central bank put out a new set of forecasts, and the new baseline is worse than the old baseline. GDP growth is now expected to chug back up slowly instead of springing up. It will be 5% in the 2021 calendar year, which is not enough to offset the 6% fall this calendar year. You've got to understand, if you go down 6%, you need to go up more than 6% because your new percentage point is down here. So you're sitting at 94. You can't see that. You're sitting at 94, not 100. So going down from 100, losing 6%, that takes you 94. What's 6% of 94? It's not 6. It's not going to take you up. You'll only be up here. So 5% will be even worse. And I wonder if in a few months' time we'll see these predictions for 2021, if they'll disappear. I wonder if they're still based, and we'll look through the actual figures or what's come out of the RBA in another video. But I wonder if they're based on returning migration or returning tourism or returning foreign students in January. Can you see that happen? Probably. The universities have a lot of lobbying power. The next graph shows the RBA's baseline unemployment forecast. It's grim. Unemployment will peak later than expected and recover more slowly. Even out at the end of 2017, unemployment is expected to be up at 7%. So this is based on the ABS unemployment methodology. Generally double it to get the Roy Morgan one. Roughly. It's a rule of thumb. But continuing until 2022, everyone, even 7% unemployment, double what we've had. What would that look like if a lot of the JobKeeper people that weren't working, that are just sitting at home, what if they were on unemployment? So here's their May forecast, and this is the updated RBA forecast. Spiking up and taking longer to get back. Till 2022, everyone. So all of next year we'll have high unemployment. Years of high unemployment. That's going to result in some scarring. It's going to result in some scarring whereby people are, kicked out of kicked out of employment and can't get back in. There are two reasons for this. First, we know the government is about to reduce support for the economy. That will be a problem. Second, the Victorian situation was not predicted. The viral outbreak has forced Melbourne into a shutdown and is ruining even more businesses. Some businesses won't come back. There's some real sad stories emerging right now. The RBA put it like this. Restrictions in Victoria, alongside some job losses occurring as a result of the JobKeeper program beginning to be tapered nationally after September, will weigh on labour market outcomes in the September and December quarters. Here's the thing. Surely there could have been other interventionist measures that they could have done in Victoria to ensure businesses survived and mitigate the spread, try and reduce the spread. Surely there could have been some. Surely they could have. But that's the problem when you have large, that's the challenge Australia faces. That's the challenge particularly Victoria faces. You'll have large groups of your population that congregate together that probably can't speak English well enough to appreciate what's going on. Then that causes tribalism, and that will lead to issues like this. I mean, there you go, guys. It just means we need to have more outreach, we need to have more education. We need to allow more cultural mixing, and there needs to be open public criticism. It all comes back to free speech eventually. And that's just the reality of things. The RBA estimates the hit from the Victorian outbreak to national GDP at about 2%. That's assuming the tight restrictions have to be in place for only 6 weeks. Well, guys, what do you think? Do you think it'll last 6 weeks? I'm concerned about the mental health issues this is going to have on people being forced under house arrest essentially for 6 weeks. I mean, we're pretty fine here. I've got a yard. You know, I've got trees I can look at. If I want to, I can lie in the background and look up at the sky. I've got kids to play with. I have my family. We're a big household here. If we were under house arrest, it really, frankly, wouldn't make any difference to us. Because I pretty much live like I'm under house arrest because I've got my office at home. Because it saves me a lot of money. But if you're living by yourself, what if you just, ended a relationship and you're all alone in an apartment? Can't go out, can't talk to any of your friends. That's where this is going to have unintended consequences. Have they been considered? This leads to the next possibility. It is possible the baseline forecast just issued are too optimistic or too pessimistic. So the RBA has issued new upside and downside forecasts. So here's the baseline of the unemployment rate. Okay, going from now, shooting up, not quite hitting 10%. This is the ABS data, and then taking a long time to go down. They haven't even projected to hit where we are now. What about the downside, the worst case scenario? Over 10% for a long period of time. The upside scenario is slightly better than the baseline, but the downside scenario is utterly terrifying, with unemployment hovering over 10% throughout 2021 and only recovering to around 9% by the end of 2022. That is an awful long time for jobs to be scarce. Years of frustration could be ahead. The downside scenario is all about the virus bouncing back, said the RBA. A plausible downside scenario is where Australia faces further periods of outbreaks and heightened restrictions in certain areas, and the world experiences a widespread resurgence in infections in the near term. Given what Melbourne has already experienced, it is impossible to rule out fresh outbreaks in other parts of Australia, and indeed rolling outbreaks around the world look quite likely. Japan, for example, is a country that did very well at controlling the outbreak initially, but is now deep in a second wave. It recorded 1,500 new cases on August. If you haven't watched the video I did reading the paper looking at disease mitigation strategies, please do. Or even read the paper yourself. Or even just watch the first 10 minutes so you hear the conclusion. Because this is the thing, guys. What we're seeing here, they're blaming it on young people having parties. They're blaming it on this or that. It's our inability to control a virus. This is what we're seeing here. There's only so much we can. I'd argue you have a chance of controlling it in a smaller, contained situation. A highly controlled environment. But every time you scale up, it gets harder to control. Because you have a lot of unknowns. But what we do know is that the methods that we're trying to implement to control this, which are very ancient, which are very old, don't appear to be working. And there are unintended consequences through this methodology, through these draconian restrictions. They always report on new cases. They need to report on mortality. You've got people in their 80s, people over 100, that sadly are dying because of this. How many of them are from the greatest generation? How many of them are from the silent generation? Do you think they'd want all these interventions? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, guys. So, of course, this downside scenario isn't the absolute worst case either, as the RBA points out. A worst case outcome than our downside could be conceived if the virus cannot be contained and further waves of infection occur around the world for some years yet. This bothers me. I sometimes worry part of the reason places like New York and London are going well for now is because of warm weather. Obviously, weather is not the only factor in viral spread, but it is notable that the virus cleared up in temperate places across Europe and North America as summer came. It is now peak summer in the Northern Hemisphere, yet people are being cautious because of the recent surge. But also windows are flung open and people are outside. In 4 months, they'll all be inside with heaters on, just like Melbourne in its recent outbreak. A second big wave in some of the biggest economies in the world would be very bad for the global economy, and it would be impossible for us to avoid the shock wave. So there we have it, everyone. Years of scarily high unemployment. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Do you think the downside forecast is accurate? Or are you an upsider? Or do you think it's going to be even worse than the RBA is anticipating? As always, thanks for watching. If you're a fan of the channel and want to support us, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.